Hi there. This is a video for Intermediate Algebra Unit 5, Section 1. And what we're going to be talking about today is polynomials. All right, so polynomials, let's just jump right in here. Polynomials is an expression with variables, coefficients, and powers that are whole numbers, okay? So an example of this, here's what we're used to. So we are used to seeing something like this, where it's like 4x plus 5, okay? This is what we call a linear function or a linear expression, okay? But now, all right, we're going to start seeing things where it's like 2x squared plus 4x plus 5. So we're adding in another term with a power, all right, that has to be a whole number. You can't have a negative power, can't have a decimal power, it has to be a whole numbered power. All right, so let's talk about, the important thing is that we talk about some vocabulary. So a term is what is separated by the plus and minus symbols, okay? So, let's say here that I use that one where it's like 2x squared plus 4x plus 5, okay? Each of these things are terms, okay? Now, you have a variable term and then you have a constant term. So a variable term has variables, all right? So if I write out 2x squared plus 4x plus 5, all right, these two are my variable terms. All right. On this last one, a constant term, this has no variables. All right. And when I think of just like a constant term, this is only numbers. All right. No variables. All right. So if I use that same one, 2x squared plus 4x plus 5, all right, the 5 is going to be my constant term, okay? That's the idea, all right? So let's talk some more about some of these things. Let's talk about the word coefficient. Coefficient is the number in front of the variable. All right, so if I use like 2x squared plus 4x plus 5, all right, my coefficients are going to be 2 and 4. All right, coefficient. All right, and the 5 is not a coefficient. This is a constant, okay? So that's different, all right? Has to be attached to a variable. All right, your power or degree. So your power is your exponent. Okay, exponents, all right? So if I had, say, 2x squared plus 4x plus 5, all right, I do have an exponent here on this just x, this 4x, that's 1. So my exponents are 2 and 1. Your degree, though, is your largest exponent. So in this case, if I'm looking at this, 2 is my degree. This would be degree 2, all right? So we're going to use these words for this stuff. All right, standard form is when you write your polynomial and the exponents go in descending order. All right, so they get smaller. And what I mean by that, so this is not standard form. So that would be something like this, where if I had like 4x plus 5 plus 2x squared, all right? I would, and so to put this in standard form, you would have to write it as 2x squared plus 4x plus 5, okay? And so it has to go 2, 1, and then no exponent, okay? So that's the vocabulary that we have. I'm trying to make this as simple as possible, all right? But we can also name polynomials by degree, okay? So let's say that I have this. I'm going to write degree here. I'm going to make a table, and then I'm going to write the name, all right? So if I have degree 0, all right, then I would name this just a constant, all right? So constant. And then I'll make an example here. This would be if like I just had like 5, okay? If I had degree 1, all right, that is a linear polynomial, all right? So that would be like 4x plus 5, all right? If I had degree 2, we call these quadratics, and that would be 2x squared plus 4x plus 5. That would be an example of that. And then degree 3, we call this a cubic function. So let's say I had 6x cubed plus 2x squared plus 4x plus 5, all right? And then if you had 4 or more, you can call this a quartic, but you call this a higher degree polynomial. Okay, and so you would say like maybe like 7x to the 4th plus 6x cubed plus 2x squared plus 4x plus 5, all right? And that's the idea. So you can name it like that, all right? Now you can also name a polynomial by the number of terms, and you can also name them using each other. So like a cubic, whatever. Let's talk about some of these. So the number of terms. So the number of terms, and then the name. Okay. So the number of terms, and you have to have at least one term to call it something. So if you have one term, we call that a monomial. Okay, if you have 2 terms, we call that a binomial. All right, 3 terms, we call that a trinomial. And then if you have 4 terms, we call that a polynomial. All right. So 4 or more, we just call that a polynomial, all right? So a lot of our work is going to be about these 3. Sometimes we will have 4 or more, but a lot of our work is going to be consistent with those, all right? So that's what I got for the first page. All right, let's go ahead and turn that page over, and we'll take a look at the next one. All right, so really what we're doing in this section is we got to be able to name these things. We have to be able to write polynomials in standard form. We need to talk about combining like terms. We need to be able to add polynomials and subtract polynomials. All right, so let's start with this, writing polynomials in standard form. And what I want to do is I want to look at my exponents. And I notice that here I have my largest exponent is 4. So this is degree 4. So I want to go 4, 3, 2, 1, 0 is how I want to write this. This is not in standard form. So if I wanted to write this in standard form, all right, what I would do is I would write 6x to the 4th minus x cubed minus 3x squared plus 7x minus 5. Notice that the sign, whatever is in front of my term, follows, okay? So because this is a minus x cubed here, that negative is going to stick with it. how it was minus 5 here, that negative is going to stick with that negative 5, and the negative 3x squared goes here, okay? And because you have just a 7x, there is no plus in front of it. We assume it's positive, so we're just going to put it plus 7x. All right, let's look at the next example. Here, all right, my largest exponent here is 3. I want to go 3, 2. There is no x term, and that's okay. And so we'll just write it like this. We'll write negative 3x cubed plus 6x squared, and then plus 7. And that's our answer, okay? So being able to write those in standard form. All right, combining like terms. So combine like terms and write each expression in standard form. So combining like terms means that let me write this up here. Combining like terms mean I want to have the same variable with the same exponent. All right, and we've done this before with other kinds of terms, but you know what I want to think about is like, okay, I've got x squared terms and x squared terms here. And all I want to do is add my coefficients. I want to add the numbers up front. Now, if there is no number, it's a 1. All right, so I'm doing 4x squared minus 1x squared gives me 3x squared, okay? And then here, if I want to add my negative 3x and positive 3x, those are like terms, that's actually going to add to 0x. And if you've got 0 times some number, it's just going to be 0. So your answer is just going to end up being 3x squared here, okay? All right, let's take a look at the next one. All right, so now here, let's look at this. I've got y cubed and y cubed, so I've got this and this. So 7y cubed plus 5y cubed is going to give us 12y cubed. If I've got negative 3y and negative 2y, that's going to give me minus 5y. And then I want to add in the plus 7. There is no other like term with it, so I just drop it down. So then I would just have plus 7, and that's your answer, okay? So that's sort of the idea with combining like terms, and so I want to take that a step further and actually add polynomials together. So, you know, what I want you to see here is that you have one polynomial plus another polynomial. And really all you're doing when you're adding polynomials is you are just combining like terms, okay? So if I look at this, I look at my 3x squared. I don't have any like terms with 3x squared, so I'm just going to drop that down. Now the only ones that I do have like terms are 2x and negative x, so I'm going to add those together. So 2x plus minus 1x is just going to give me plus 1x, which is just x. And then we have this last one, this plus 9. Drop that down. All right, so that's adding these two together. All right, let's take a look over at this one. All right, so this one, I've got this polynomial here plus this other polynomial here. So I've got negative 2x squared, and I don't have any other like terms with an x squared. So I'm just going to drop down minus 2x squared. All right, then I'm going to look at the other like terms. So I do have 5x plus 3x. So 5x plus 3x is going to give me a total of 8x, adding the numbers up front. Keep your variable. And then negative 7 plus 7 is just going to add to 0. All right, and I don't need to write that plus 0, so if I were to put these together, it'd be negative 2x squared plus 8x. Okay, make sure you're always writing your answers in standard form. All right, taking a look at this last one, subtracting polynomials. This is the same thing as adding, except for you have one step. Now, what I want you to notice is that I keep underlining, you know, the first polynomial and the second polynomial, and these are in parentheses. So when you have polynomials, if I'm taking one polynomial minus the other, it's one quantity minus the other. What you have to do every time is you have to distribute the negative. So I want to write that up here, that you must distribute the negative. Okay, so with that, all right, I'm going to do this. Whenever I distribute my negative, I'm going to just copy down my first polynomial. So 3x squared plus 4x plus 2. And then if I'm think of this like negative as like a -1, all right, that you're multiplying. So -1 times -x is going to change the sign into a positive x. And then -1 times +4 is going to change that into a -4. And then we come through and we just combine our like terms, okay? So I'm going to drop down my 3x squared. I'm going to take my 4x and my x, and I'm going to add those together. So that's going to give me 4x plus 1x is going to give me 5x. And then I've got +2 minus 4. So 2 minus 4 gives me -2. And that drops down. And that is my answer. Okay, one more, and then we're done. All right, same thing. So I'm just going to distribute this negative first. All right, copy down my first polynomial, so -5x minus 6. And then this is going to become minus 4x squared minus 6. And a good rule of thumb is that whenever you distribute the negative, everything in this polynomial becomes the opposite of what it was, okay? And then I'm going to combine my like terms. Now, even though I have this -4x squared in the middle of that polynomial, I want to write that one down first. So I'm going to write -4x squared, and then I notice I don't have any other x terms, so I'm just going to bring down my -5x. But I do have this -6 minus 6, which is minus 12. And that is our answer. All right. So that's what we're doing today. All right. And that's what we're going to be doing for this unit. So, hopefully this makes sense. It's not too tricky for you. And let me know if you have any questions. Thanks. Bye.